Voters of Champaign County, on behalf of the League and the NAACP Champaign County Branch, I welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. This forum is for the consolidated election on April 1st, 2025, for the office of the President of the Savoy Village Board of Trustees. The recordings of this forum will be available on votechampaign.org, which is the League's candidate guide, and also the League's YouTube channel. Links for both of which can be found on the League's website, LWVCC.org. The forum will also be available on Savoy's Municipal.org. Okay, Savoy's Facebook page. I will be the moderator. Ralph Trimble will be our timekeeper. Questions were solicited online to be sent to the League. I will be the moderator. Email address. Ralph Trimble. In addition, questions have been solicited from the audience. League members. I will be the moderator. I don't think we need to hand out any more cards because I have 20 questions, which should keep us busy. The order for candidates is alphabetical. John Brown will open and Jan Carter Niccum will close. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. I will then ask questions, and the candidates will each have 1 minute to answer these questions. I will be alternating which one. If I mess up, just raise your hand. Candidates can finish their sentence or thought if the time has expired, and you have to keep an eye on the timekeeper, although they'll wave if you go over. At the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Okay, so we are starting with Mr. Brown for your 2-minute opening statement.
All right. Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate. I am John Brown, and I've had the honor of serving you for the past 20 years as a village trustee and most recently as your village president. I've dedicated my life to public service, whether as a board member of the Board of Trustees, a law enforcement official, the public guardian, the public administrator for Champaign County, or as a volunteer firefighter. Savoy is where I've raised my family and where my grandchildren now come to visit. I care deeply about our community, and I'm very proud of what we have been able to accomplish in the past 4 years under my leadership. I say we because this has been a joint effort between our talented staff and the Board of Trustees, and they deserve credit as well. We successfully guided the village through the end of the COVID pandemic. We have been awarded 3 grants totaling $29 million to construct the Curtis Road Underpass and Complete Street Project, the First Street Shared Use Path, and the Prairie Field Shared Use Path. We have made changes to the staffing model at the fire department and improved fire response times by 59% and improved morale. We have facilitated over $106 million in economic development, created a stormwater master plan to start addressing drainage issues. We have modernized village operations, updated the village codes, increased our financial reserves, and improved services. All this and more have been accomplished without increasing property taxes. We are turning long-term village priorities into reality and getting results for the citizens of Savoy.
All right, and Mr. Niccum?
Okay, my name is Jan Carter Niccum. I'm running for village president, also commonly known as mayor. I have served on the village board for 20 years, so 5 terms, and I am the longest tenured member of the board currently. Also, I taught school for 35 years, and 17 of those years I taught civics at Rancho Township High School before transitioning to the Champaign District. I was on the Champaign County Vision 2020 Committee in the land use area. I helped to negotiate the MTD moratorium that we've had for 27 years now, I believe it is. but it expires in 2032, keeping some large sections of homeowners out of the MTD district and the taxation for service that they would not be receiving anyway. Also, I served as liaison to the Savoy Planning Commission for 12 years. I attended the fire department monthly meetings for my first 15 years on the board. I attended 18 of the last 20 Illinois Municipal League meetings or conferences in Chicago, which offers an awful lot of educational opportunities to people from over 1,300 communities of all sizes, including the city of Chicago. I attend IML Lobby Day in Springfield in the spring. I am president of the 230-member Champaign County Retired Teachers Association for the last 6 years. And I attend in person or watch most of the Unit 4 school board meetings to try to keep people on our board abreast of what's going on with the unit district, since we're one of the founding members of Unit 4, Bonneville, Savoy, and Champaign back in the 1950s. I am for economic development and new business in Savoy. I'm for reducing the tax burden on homeowners. I want to study and probably implement a leaf collection system to help those people that have respiratory issues in the village. And as more community members have larger trees, it's becoming more of an issue. Fire protection for residents east of the Canadian National Tracks. Thank you.
Okay, so, alternating Mr. Brown, I'm going to give you the first question, which you've probably already answered it, but feel free to elaborate. What are your qualifications for president of the village board of trustees for Savoy?
Well, as I mentioned in my opening statement, I have served on the village board for 20 years. Most recently, most of that time as a village trustee, but most recently as village president. I've also have extensive training. I've spent the past 34 years in law enforcement. All but 10 of that has been in leadership, supervisor and leadership positions. I've been to some prestigious law enforcement leadership classes like the FBI National Academy and the Northwestern Police and Staffing Command. But I've also had training on evaluations, resource management, communications, all those different areas that I've had training in helped me in my role as the leader of the Savoy municipal government.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Niccum, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I'm fine. Okay, in addition to the things already stated, I also have an administrative degree in educational administration, which allows me to have experience or knowledge on how to evaluate staff, leadership skills. I've been in leadership positions in other organizations, as previously stated, and the 20 years on the Savoy Village Board has been during a great time of growth, especially during the first 12 of those 20 years. We grew an awful lot. Right now, we're not for sure how big we are. We haven't had an update to our census. We're waiting on that. But as far as being mayor, I think that it's going to be a fairly easy transition into the mayoral position from having served as a village trustee. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And let me give you question number 2. What are your goals and aspirations for the next 4 years if you are elected president, Mr. Niccum?
Okay, one of the things that I previously mentioned was attempting to keep property taxes down. And it's not just property taxes. We have seen a push here in the last few months to reimpose a grocery tax under home rule. And even though it's a small tax, it's another tax. We changed the sales tax under the current leadership 3 years ago. And I would hope that we don't see any more increases in taxes in that area. So those are some key areas. Also, I would like to see us go after more clean industrial growth, no smokestacks, and also more businesses. We've got a lot of areas that we can develop, such as Route 45 and the Curtis Road corridor out toward Carl.
All right. Mr. Brown, what are your goals and aspirations for the next 4 years if you're elected president?
Well, I would like to see us continue to follow the priorities as outlined in the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan was a result of considerable public input on what our residents felt the priorities should be, and I think we've achieved that in my first term. I certainly, I really want to start addressing the stormwater issues in town. During my first term, we have created a stormwater master plan, and we began we began to implement that plan. I want to see that continued. We have a lot of neighborhoods that have stormwater issues that I believe the village should be helping to fix instead of it just being a homeowner association issue. I want to continue to see the improvements we've had with public safety. As I mentioned in my opening statement, the changes we've made so far have reduced fire response times by,
Okay, Mr. Brown, what do you think are the biggest obstacles to your goals for Savoy, and how would you plan to surmount them?
well, I would say that the biggest obstacle is always financial. I think Savoy for years has talked about different things it wanted to do. We've talked about different, wanting to add bike paths, wanting to do the Curtis Road underpass. For years we talked about those improvements. And under my leadership, we've been able to receive grant funding. Like I said, $29 million worth of grant, and we've received funding from outside sources as well for the Curtis Road underpass. And I think that that's how we overcome some of the financial issues that we do have, is through seeking out grants, and then being fiscally conservative and fiscally minded when we budget, so that we do have some extra money set aside.
Okay, Mr. Niccum, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, we're fine. Okay, one of the things that has been proposed and is out to engineering right now is a renovation to Colbert Park in the south end of town. And unfortunately, we missed the grant opportunity by just a few days, actually. And we're looking at about a $3.97 million bill as to what's been proposed. And if that is not funded partially by grants, that means that's going to be a large bill to the taxpayers of Savoy. So I'd like to see things like that phased in future projects. So, for example, maybe do a multi-use path that will connect to the south end of the park, ultimately down into Lake Park, or down into Lake Falls and Fieldstone subdivisions, and also maybe pickleball courts and other things that are much more reasonably priced, but yet we have to wait for some of the grant funding to come through, because otherwise the whole bill goes on the backs of the taxpayers, which would require a tax increase more than likely.
Okay, and Mr. Niccum, next question. What do you think about development of a downtown Savoy area?
We have been talking about the development of the downtown area for many years, and now we have most of that property cleared, and we do have people that are interested in doing that development, but it's a matter of, I guess, dotting all the I's and crossing the T's to get to the point that we need to get to. But we keep seeing the target moving, and I'm hoping that that target becomes a fixed target here pretty soon, and the developer can get ready and get going on that. So several people are looking forward to having an opportunity for maybe a restaurant, maybe some small shops, open areas, entertainment areas, all walkable within the downtown area.
Okay, Mr. Brown, do you want me to repeat?
Yes, if you could.
Okay, what do you think about development of a downtown Savoy area?
I'm very excited about the development of a downtown area. It's been part of our comprehensive plan for years and years, and I'm very happy that under my leadership we've made progress towards that and identified a developer, and we're working on a development agreement as we speak. And I'm very impressed with the developer and the amount of public input that they have sought to see what our citizens want. And this is going to be a public-private venture, meaning that part of that, the land there is gonna stay public and have a public square and public opportunities for, for us to meet and have some, and hopefully we'll have some connections with bike paths in the future. And I'm very excited about it, very excited about it. I think it'll be a great asset to our community.
Okay, and Mr. Brown, again, 10 years ago, a study was conducted regarding bike and pedestrian access within Savoy, with very detailed plans and goals outlined. Has there been progress on the plan?
Oh, yes, there has been considerable progress in the last 4 years. For many years, the board talked about wanting more bike paths. When I moved into Prairie Fields in 2002, the realtor told me there's gonna be bike paths. And I'm very happy to say that under my leadership, we have obtained 2 grants. One to build the First Street bike path, which we've completed, and we're also then received a second grant for the Prairie Fields bike path, which we're in the process of engineering and completing. And we've applied for a 3rd grant that will extend that bike path to Culver Park. And it's my hope that we're connected, all the subdivisions are eventually connected, but we're making progress.
Okay, Mr. Niccum?
Yes.
Should we-
No, I'm good. One of our longest bike paths is the Ripple Path that goes from the rec center up toward Champaign proper along Prospect Avenue continuing. And that path has been in existence since I bought my house in 1997, so it's been there quite a while. But we do have new paths. The path that is being built in the northern part of Prairie Field subdivision, I remember bringing back some proposals for bridges, for a bridge to go across the stream that's on the north side of that section of Prairie Fields. But that's been a few years ago, and now we are finally getting some funding to complete part of that path. And hopefully, as time passes, we will get all these different paths linked together. I know that's been a top priority for a lot of people, is connectivity with bike and walking and running paths.
Okay, I think you actually have just covered this next question, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. Access to Culver Park, Mr. Niccum, and the proposed downtown development is virtually non-existent for residents of the neighborhoods on the south side of the village. Biking, walking, or running on First Street is a lethal experience given the traffic that passes at highway speeds and without any pathways or sidewalks. Direct access to Culver Park via a bike or walking path that connects into Lake Falls would be a huge step toward improving non-vehicular connectivity. Do you support this development? And if so, what steps can be taken to implement this?
I do support that connection, but one of the problems that we have is that there's a piece of land that the current developer does not own. It's about 250 feet of land, I think, on the south end of the park. And it would link into Phase 5, which is in the builder's website, saying that 30-some lots are available in Phase 5 of Lake Falls. But once we get all of that going and we get that final 250 feet acquired by somebody, then we'll have a connection that would go to Lake Falls. And then we have some land that could be used on the south end of Lake Falls to make a connection over toward Fieldstone subdivision, so people in Fieldstone could also get to the park. So yes, riding a bicycle, running on First Street is deadly. So we need to do something to keep people from having to do that.
Okay, Ms. Brown, do you want me to repeat the question?
I think I remember it.
Okay,
I do support extending the bike path to Lake Falls and on Fieldstone. That is in the works. As once we hopefully get a grant to a new grant to extend the bike path from Prairie Fields to Culver Park, the next phase would be to extend that farther south. I've already spoken to staff and identified an area just south of Culver Park. There's an old growth, some old trees, I believe over 150 to 200 years old, that I'd love to have part of the park system. But my idea is to follow that all the way, follow a line along the railroad tracks and along the tree line to connect with field, or with the subdivision there, and then onto Fieldstone. So yes, I do support extending the bike path farther.
Okay, and again, Mr. Brown, how does the village plan to fund a nearly $4 million renovation to Colbert Park?
Well, the village has not approved any renovation to Culver Park at this point. The village has approved the engineering, and that's always the first step. And the plan from there, as the board was told when this was presented, once we have the engineering completed, then it'll be more marketable to apply for grants to get the funding. Unfortunately, as we found with all the years that we were hoping to have bike paths, funding was always an issue. So if we can't get funding for those improvements, and we can't do it in such that we can do it in phases, the improvements will not happen. But my goal is to seek grant funding for any improvements.
Okay, Mr. Niccum?
Yes, the funding issue I kind of previously touched on. Whenever this concept was presented to our board back in the fall of this last year, there was a deadline of the end of September to get a state grant. That was only a partial grant. It would have been $600,000 in a matching grant. But we missed that by just several days whenever the item actually came to our board for any type of vote. So the way the grant cycles work in the state, you have to wait another 2 years for those OSLAD grants. So we're looking at another year and a half before that grant cycle opens up again. Could there be other grants available? Sure. But that's the one that we typically go after for projects such as that. And that is also a major reason why that particular park would need to be done in phases, because $4 million is $4 million.
Okay, and again, Mr. Niccum, Savoy is well known for its recreational facilities. What is the funding mechanism for the Parks Department? Are any changes necessary or desirable?
Well, the parks are funded by the taxpayers of Savoy. It's considered an amenity. And we've had people in the past that would like to see us maybe get rid of some of our amenities. We've had people that thought the rec center wasn't making money. And the rec center was not designed to be a moneymaker. It was designed to be an amenity for people in the community to play pickleball, to lift weights, to do exercise classes, to have a walking track, to have a very, very successful summer program, you know, a lot of things like that. And there are admission charges, there are membership charges to the rec center, but that was never intended to support the rec center wholly. So it is something that is supported to a large degree by the taxpayers of Savoy.
Okay, Mr. Brown, do you want me to repeat it?
Yes, if you could.
Okay, Savoy is well known for its recreational facilities. What is the funding mechanism for the Parks Department? Are any changes necessary or desirable?
Well, the funding mechanism are the municipal property taxes that the village collects every year. The rec center does, as mentioned by trustee Niccum, does collect fees, but over the past couple of years, we do not count that for budgeting purposes, but we put that into reserve. And with that money, we've been able to, we've taken that money that we've saved and been able to put it into remodeling that building. Whenever I go in the building now, somebody always stops me and tells me how nice the place looks. And we also are looking at, can we utilize the old school, and can we look at options for updating that and using that as also as a facility, but that is all in the works.
Okay, and again, Mr. Brown, for law enforcement, Savoy uses Champaign County Sheriff's Department on contract. Do you think Savoy should establish its own police department?
No, I believe it would be a big mistake for us to establish our own police department. You can look at the village of Muhammad and see they're a similarly sized municipality, has the same population. They are spending around 3.5 million a year on their police protection. It might be 2.5. I can't remember the exact number, but it's considerably more than what we're spending. And they are constantly dealing with trying to find quality officers, constant turnover with places, people going to other places. And then we also have to hire a chief, command staff, and we accept the liability. We have better service with the sheriff's office. It's worked. I can see us maybe someday increasing the number of deputies, the number of hours of coverage, but I think it would be a mistake for us to have our own police department.
Okay, Mr. Niccum?
Yes, the cost of police protection has continuously increased since we started our service with the sheriff's department, but it is cheaper than having our own. And, you know, it's not just a matter of hiring staff and buying cars and equipping and training officers, but you have all the ancillary support staff, whether it's dispatchers, you have a lot of other factors to figure in. And of course, the big killer these days is the pension costs, because we have huge pension costs for public safety staff, retired staff in the state of Illinois, whether it's fire or police. And that's something that the taxpayers of Savoy would have to assume too if we took on a full-time police department.
Okay, and Mr. Niccum, do you think Savoy should implement an annual stormwater utility fee? And if so, what would it be used for?
Well, it's been previously mentioned by Mr. Brown that we are thinking about possibly doing some work in the stormwater area in the near future. And the problem that we have right now, once again, is paying for that. Will that require a stormwater fee? Very possibly, unless we can do some real belt tightening and cut other areas, which is possible that we could do that. There are some areas it looks like we could cut. But a stormwater tax, it's not just a fee, it's a tax. And that is something that other communities in the area have, and I'm not for sure that all of the residents of Savoy have the stomach to take on yet another tax at this time.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Do you think Savoy should implement an annual stormwater utility fee? And if so, what would it be used for?
No, I don't believe we should implement a stormwater utility fee. Over the past 4 years, as we've gone through the budgeting process, we have created, our reserves have gone up drastically in the past 4 years. And we are spending our money wisely, and we certainly couldn't make drainage or fix all the drainage issues at once. Neither can we build all the bike paths at once. It has to be a step process, but we certainly have extra funds in our reserve that we could start implementing some of the improvements that we have a surplus of about $2 million the past couple of years. So we're spending our money wisely.
Okay, and again, Mr. Brown, what position or activities do you think the village should take toward protecting the Muhammad Aquifer?
Well, interesting you should say that. I just signed a joint letter with the mayors of Champaign and Urbana to urge our state representatives to protect the aquifer and change the laws to better protect our water source. In fact, my mother-in-law is heavily, here in the audience, my mother-in-law is very heavily involved with that effort, and has even gotten us a yard sign for our yard. So I think I'm the only one in our neighborhood to have a yard sign, but we're very serious about that. And like I said, I will do everything in my ability and my position to support those efforts.
Okay, Mr. Niccum?
I'm actually on the record at the county board level as opposing the sequestration of gases on the on and under the aquifer. And I've been to several meetings at Brookins in Urbana talking with people dealing with that very, very issue, whether it's local or other parts of the state of Illinois where the Muhammad Aquifer goes, or even the amount of water that is being drained from the aquifer over in Indiana, one of the major drug companies over in Indiana, has been drawing down the water levels. Several years ago, probably 10 or 12 years ago, I had Chapin Rose and Mike Frerichs lined up to speak at a meeting I was at in Chicago to talk about the aquifer and the issues of dumping PCBs over at Clinton. And immediately, or right before the meeting was to start, we were told that that topic was off the table. It was too hot to handle because it was dealing with an issue that Chicago didn't want us to deal with. They wanted to get rid of the PCBs in Central Illinois.
Okay, thank you. So I already asked you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mr. Niccum, what amount of grant or other funds does the village get from the federal government? What will the village do if the federal funds are reduced or eliminated?
Okay, the biggest chunk of federal money that we've seen recently has been for the grade separation at Curtis Road, commonly known as the Curtis Road underpass. And that has been a concern. We know that with the change in political parties in Washington, D.C., that there's always the risk that federal funding could be withheld or withdrawn. And all three of the congressional legislators that were involved in that process were all Democrats, and the White House, of course, is occupied by Republicans. So will that change? We don't know for sure. But if that money were to disappear, which it's been threatened in other parts of the country that might happen, if that money were to disappear, then that's one project that we couldn't afford. We can't afford a $54+ million project and might have to do something else there. That's one project that we couldn't.
Well, the only grant funding that we do have currently that is outstanding is the $22.6 million raised grant that we received for the Curtis Road underpass and complete street project. All indications are, from what we're hearing right now, is that we feel that we're safe and we aren't at risk of losing that grant because of the type of what the type of project it's for. But if we were to lose that project or lose that grant, I don't see how we would be able to continue with the underpass project. We have the money from outside source to finish the engineering, and we'd have to turn back around and seek another grant. But the village itself could not afford to have $22 million. Have to come up with that.
Okay. And again, Mr. Brown, for the long-range future of Savoy, what is your vision? What benefits would you be looking for, and what are the obstacles?
Well, this is interesting. I'm going to cover all the things in my closing statement before I get to them. I mean, my vision for Savoy is, Savoy is, many people have said Savoy lacks an identity. And my vision is that one day that Savoy is known for its beautiful parks, its green spaces, and its network of shared use paths that connect all of our subdivisions to our parks and businesses. I want to see, my vision is for us to complete the downtown project, have a beautiful meeting point, kind of a something that we can look at and be proud of. My vision is for us to remain fiscally responsible, but make changes that affect a positive effect on the quality of life for our citizens.
Okay, Mr. Niccum?
Okay. Well, for the last 4 years, actually I think longer than that, but at least 4 years, we haven't had a single meeting of our Economic Development Commission. And I would like to see us re-implement that and go after new business in Savoy. And I would also like to see, like I mentioned earlier, some clean industry, no smokestacks, but I look at, say, in Avon, Indiana, and I see all the warehouses that they have there out by the airport, and that's a huge tax generator for what used to be a little village of Avon. So, the parks and the bike paths and everything, yes, those are very nice, it's a nice identity, but I also want to protect the pocketbooks of the residents of Savoy, and I'd like to see them get a little help in tax relief in the form of some businesses and industry that might help offset that burden.
Okay, and again, Mr. Niccum, Being the village president would make you the chief executive of the village and the manager, the village administrator, and the village's department heads. Tell me about your relationships with the current staff. How have those relationships been built and supported during your time as an elected official with Savoy?
Okay. Under the current leadership of Savoy, I would say that my relationship has not been as strong as it has been in the previous leadership of Savoy. But I look to see a change in that I will be viewed differently. I won't just be a trustee, say, oh, he's the mayor, and we have to deal with him. So I think that will be a real positive as far as opening up some lines of communications. Because prior to the last 4 years, there was a very strong working relationship with members of the Savoy leadership team, whether it was the village manager, the fire chief, public works directors, people that worked in other areas in the village, head of the rec center, all of those things. So I hope to see a big change in that in the next few months.
Okay, Mr. Brown, do you want me to repeat?
Yeah, if you could.
Being the village president would make you chief executive of the village and the manager of the village administrator and the village's department heads. Tell me about your relationships with the current staff. How have those relationships been built and supported during your time as an elected official with Savoy?
Well, I have an outstanding relationship with our staff and our village officers, department heads. And I think it's built on trust, and I'm as a administrator, I'm not a micromanager. I'm lucky that I have the same vision. The village administrator and I share the same vision for our future, and it makes it easier to work together. But I do little things like on the staff, each staff member, full-time staff member's birthday, I buy them a card, and I buy them a little gift card to show that they're appreciated. So I think we build a level of trust among us, and you see them make that extra effort to do a good job, I think, for the village. Like I said, it's a very, very positive relationship, and the staff and the department heads have a very good relationship with other members, except for one village board member.
Okay, and again, Mr. Brown, and this looks to be repetitious, but you can handle it. Savoy has been successful in securing grant funds for projects from multi-use paths to the Curtis Road Bridge. These grants require not only putting together a good grant application package, but also advocating on behalf of Savoy at the local, state, and federal level. Tell me about how you have advocated for Savoy personally, through staff, and through your network. What impact have you made, and what are you planning to do if you are elected?
Well, as village president, I've regularly met with both our state and federal leaders. I met with the former federal director of transportation, and I've met with the former state director of transportation many times to talk about different priorities of Savoy. And I also have allowed staff, our village administrator, who has formed great relationships with the staffs of our state and federal elected officials, and that has paid dividends for us. Prior to getting the Curtis Road grant, we had applied 6 times for that grant and were unsuccessful. And I really believe the reason why we're successful now with receiving 3 different grants is because of the relationships that we have formed with those leaders. I see my time's run out.
Okay, Mr. Niccum, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, fine. I've been to Springfield, I've been to Washington, D.C., I've been in the offices of our U.S. senators, our former representative, Rodney Davis. I have not been to Representative Brzezinski's office yet, but I personally have been in the doors of those offices meeting with some of their staff, primarily talking about the issue of the grade separation, and this is prior to what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years. I also have met with our senators and representatives in Springfield, much of that on the same issue, the grade separation and additional funding, because I know that the funding shortfalls that we have, we still have shortfalls in that area, and trying to maintain open doors and having really good relationships with people in those offices is key.
Okay, and again, Mr. Niccum, the village president's role includes leading efforts to attract new businesses and support existing ones, crucial for job creation and economic vitality. Given the village's proximity to the university, there is an opportunity to leverage academic resources for innovation and entrepreneurship. What are your plans for economic development in Savoy, including attracting new businesses and supporting existing ones?
Okay. Well, 3.5 years ago or so, when we increased the sales tax, the business owners in Savoy had not been notified of that fact. And when they came to the meeting that night to find out what was happening, they were almost in shock, saying, hey, you know, we have an advantage because our sales tax is less than Champagne's. And I voted against the sales tax increase at that time and still opposed to that increase. But, you know, that is something that some of our businesses did lose an advantage that they had. You know, so that's something that we have to do. We have to look to what we can do, little small things or big things, but little small things that can help keep the local businesses to some type of business advantage over the competitors. Also, I do want to see increases in retail growth. One of the things that was proposed within the last 4 years was a big box lumberyard down by Walmart, but that was rejected wholeheartedly by staff. So things like that are things that I'd like to see happen.
Okay, Mr. Brown, would you like me to repeat?
Yes, if you could.
Okay. The village president's role includes leading efforts to attract new businesses and support existing ones, crucial for job creation and economic vitality. Given the village's proximity to the university, there is an opportunity to leverage academic resources for innovation and entrepreneurship. What are your plans for economic development in Savoy, including attracting new businesses and supporting existing ones?
Yeah, we've been interested as a village staff, and I have talked many times about our proximity to the University of South Farms, and we feel that trying to attract some type of ag-related business would be ideal, considering how close we are. And we actually sponsored an ag expo several years ago, the village did, to learn more about the industry. I'm happy to announce that the village just recently, started yesterday, our new economic developer began, and one of their big roles will be not only business retention, but also seeing what we can do to attract new business to town and finding out what our residents would like to see. But we're putting all the pieces together. We've formed a solid foundation, and I'm very excited about the future of development.
Okay, and your question again, housing is a local concern, particularly given Savoy's proximity to the University of Illinois, which influences faculty, staff, and student housing needs. With a population of 8,900 and a growing multicultural community, ensuring affordable and high-quality housing is all crucial. How do you plan to manage the housing needs for residents, ensuring affordability and quality?
Well, I think we're dealing with a couple different issues here, but I think we take a holistic approach and look in terms of mixed-use developments as we move forward is what I would see where, I mean, the Arbors subdivision is a perfect example where you have some single family residential units that transitions to townhomes, transitions to small apartments, and then there's even retirement homes as you get older. you can live your whole life in your community. So I think that that's the approach as we move forward. We'll see more of those types of developments in your community. So I think that that's,
Okay.
I had a feeling I was gonna run out of time there.
It's an interesting question on the affordability issue. About 4 years ago, we were hiring a new public works director, and each time we've hired a new public works director, I said they need to live in Savoy so that they can have easy access when there's the need. And the person sitting to my right said, oh, we can't make them live here, it's too expensive. So they built a house on the golf course at Atkins over at the U of I golf course, which didn't quite jive. But anyway, one of the things I keep hearing about affordable housing is that a lot of people do not want to see more apartments being built in Savoy. And I voted against a project just recently that will call for a new apartment building right up against $500,000 houses. And I think we need to really give that some serious thought as to what kind of housing we're going to build and where it's going to be built. And I think we need to really
Okay, Mr. Niccum, next question. What do you think are the top 2 or 3 problems facing Savoy today that need to be addressed?
Well, I think that one of the problems is a metro problem, and that is the issue of ever-increasing crime. And we like to think that Savoy is a really quiet little community, but as we hear too frequently, there are things that happen in Savoy. And we hope that all of those can be squelched by our police force. But, you know, safety, home invasions, those things are things that I am very, very concerned about, and making sure that this is as safe a community as possible. So that would be a major concern. And I think that just our easy access to highways and that make it a vulnerable community, but also a very positive thing for our community, so that people can get here easily, they can travel easily. You can go to major metro areas in almost no time, whether it be Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis. So lots of positives, but we do have to worry about safety, public safety. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Would you mind repeating
Sure.
it one more time? I get lost in his response. And
That makes sense. What do you think are the top 2 or 3 problems facing Savoy today that need to be addressed?
well, as I mentioned before, I think our number one, well, from one standpoint, one of our number one issues that we have is our storm water drainage issues. Every time we have a major storm, we see water backed up and we get complaints from the citizens. I've often said when I've talked to Trustee Mangan, the homeowner association, the arbors, if I could solve the drainage issues, I could be voted in for life. So I feel that the residents feel so strongly about it. I would also say that, public safety is another issue, and we're making changes, like I said, to the fire department that has drastically improved their response time. We've had 4 working fires since we changed the model, the staffing model, and the average response time has been 3 minutes and 17 seconds. So what we're doing is working, but we do need to look at probably increased police protection. Last time we renewed the contract 3 years ago, the sheriff said that our staffing was fine, but we're always open to that.
Okay, and next question, Mr. Brown. What are 1 or 2 improvements you'd like to see in Savoy to make it a more attractive or better place to live or work?
Well, like I said, I would like to see continued improvements to our parks, and I would love to see more bike paths. I think both of those items would make Savoy more attractive with people wanting to live here. I also think that as we grow, as we grow south, being in the Toowoomba School District is also going to be a big benefit to our village, and will also drive support.
Mr. Niccum?
That's okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What are 1 or 2 improvements you'd like to see in Savoy to make it a more attractive or better place to live or work?
Okay. One of the things that I am very concerned about is the fact that too many of our students are forced to ride a school bus somewhere in Unit 4. And some of them as far as the northwest corner of the district to help balance out the district. And I would like to see us get back to a neighborhood school concept district-wide. I know that there are people that are opposed to that concept, but an awful lot of people that want to live in Savoy want their kids to go to school in Savoy. And our school that we have in our community right now, Carrie Busey, is one of the most highly chosen schools in the district for good reasons, and people like sending their kids there. But not everybody in town can go to the same place. So that's one of the things. Also, whenever developers are developing, I want to see us continue to push for them to set aside park space, and I want to see them be forced to put in multi-use paths. We recently had one that had a 4-foot sidewalk. I said, make it an 8 or 10-foot sidewalk so it's a multi-use path. And they said, no, we can't do that. So that would have helped.
Okay, and again, Mr. Niccum, please explain your position regarding the development of a new downtown Savoy area.
Yes, yes.
I thought so. Okay. 10 years ago, so the next question. 10 years ago, a study was conducted regarding bike and pedestrian access.
We did that.
We did that.
You're at the end.
I think we are at the end. I think that's all the questions, or all, yeah, all the questions I have. So we're ready for closing statements. Let's see, you start with the opening, so you start with the closing.
I started with the opening, so I start with the closing again.
Right, so he gets the last word.
You get the first word, he gets last.
Oh, I get the first word. Okay. Oh, okay. I get it. I figured it would work opposite. Once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate. In my opening statement, I mentioned some of the amazing accomplishments that have occurred under my leadership as village president. For years, previous boards have talked about constructing a Curtis Road underpass or the downtown development or building new shared bike paths, but were unable to secure the funding. Under my leadership, we are accomplishing these long-term village priorities. My vision is one day for Savoy to be known as for our beautiful parks, green spaces, and network of shared use paths connecting all of our subdivisions. In my next term as village president, I want to see continued implementation of the stormwater master plan. For years, the village treated stormwater issues as a homeowner association problem, but I believe the village has a responsibility to partner with the HOAs to solve these issues. I've already directed staff to start the process of updating the village's comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan identifies the village's priorities and outlines future growth. The comprehensive plan is the village's primary planning document, and it's imperative that it accurately reflects the priorities of our residents. I want to continue to improve our services while maintaining fiscal responsibility and keeping property taxes low. I also want to continue the positive economic development. I am an experienced, trusted leader and the only candidate with a proven history of working with others to build consensus. I ask for your vote on April 1st. Thank you.
Anybody that's called Village Hall and talked to a person immediately, you're lucky. Several of us, including me, when we call Village Hall, we get a voicemail and we have to wait till it goes through an office for someone maybe to contact us. And I want to see that change. I want to see people feel like they're welcome to call Village Hall, welcome to come into Village Hall, welcome to express their opinions. You know, to hear that a trustee is singled out, yes, that has been the way for 4 years. And we have staff members that have been told not to talk to some trustee. I want to see that changed, whether it's me or anybody that's serving in Savoy. We shouldn't have those petty differences, but they do exist within these 4 walls. I would be opposed to the regressive taxes that we've seen imposed in the last 4 years. And as we know, the mayor doesn't put things in effect. The mayor has to get 4 trustees to vote for something to happen. So it's actually the mayor proposing things, but the trustees really are the ones that implement a lot of things that go on in the village. My opponent has not had an EDC meeting. I'm glad to hear that they've changed course. We originally were going to have an assistant administrator, but now we have an EDC person filling that position, so I'm very happy to hear that. We hear about the fire department. Well, we don't hear how we're going to pay the pension costs if we go with more full-time positions at the fire department. We hear that we have a full-time ambulance service that is, according to Channel 3 news story, just started in the last year. But those of us that have been around know that it's been over there for over 10 years, housed at the fire station. We know that the cost of the fire department pre-COVID was $107,000 in salaries, and the budget for 2026 is $710,000 according to the new budget. So also I've been asking for a special census. That would help get some money for us. We need a special census to know who actually lives in Savoy. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you to the NAACP for sponsoring this.
Okay. Thank you, both of you. And thanks again, yes, to the League of Women Voters of Champaign County and to the NAACP. Again, the recording can be found on the votechampaign.org and on the League's YouTube channel and on Savoy's Facebook page. Thanks to Timer Ralph Trimble and his new assistant trainee. You've done a good job keeping us up to schedule. Just a reminder, it's not too late to register and to vote. You can register all the way up to election day and vote on that day. Information on how to do that is available on the League website and the county clerk's website. Please vote.